Welcome, Blair, Kaplan, Venables. Not Venables, but Venables.
Hi.
How are you?
Oh my gosh, I'm so good. Thank you so much for having me.
Thanks for being on the show.
How are you?
I'm good. After winning the Baby Bathwater Bolo Tie Award for my blinking baby Bolo.
But you missed the award.
I know. I was taking a nap. I came
geez.
half an hour late to dinner. And Michael's like, where were you? Like, dude, I was taking a nap, man.
You missed an opportunity to go on stage and get an award.
Right.
So when you're recounting this story on another podcast, you failed to leave out that you got the award, but you didn't actually accept it.
But I just want to say something. Baby Bathwater, the whole event is a stage. So
that's true.
It is.
If you weren't there specifically to accept your award before dinner, we all knew you won. We all cheered you on.
Yes.
So it's okay.
I felt it while I was napping.
I mean, we had dinner together.
After being up till 4 a.m. the night before. Yeah. Took my nap.
Well, Brandon's a senior citizen now, so that's what he needs.
Yeah, I need my nap before dinner, clearly.
So if you're intuitive or not, we keep hitting you over the head with all these cool Baby Bathwater members. So Blair's another one of Brandon's compadres.
Yes.
And Blair, just have to let you know, like, you got big shoes to fill, because Baby Bathwater people, by experience, are pretty awesome people. But just in the pre-conversation, I think you're going to do just fine. I mean, Blair is sitting in a very comfortable chair. She's in frigid British Columbia, but she's being hugged by a polar bear during this podcast.
Because in Canada, we all have pet polar bears.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So it's awesome. So Blair, just want to welcome you. It's great to meet you. Tell us, what is exciting in Blair's life right now, business-wise, personal-wise?
Yeah, well, that's a great question. And it's funny because lately I've had a lot of people checking in on me. And I'm going to back up.
Are you frozen solid? Are you alive?
No, Blair. Well, no, it's okay. It's a little like serious twist for a minute to give you some context.
Of course.
And a bit of a trigger warning, because I'm going to mention some stuff that's like hard as fuck. If you need to walk away, pause this, walk away, come back. If you need support, reach out to me. I will put you in touch with the right support wherever you may live. But the last few years of my life have been fucking hell. Okay. So a couple years ago, my husband had a heart attack and quadruple bypass surgery. He's fine, but he almost died. And then about a year later, we've been trying to get pregnant for a while. I was told I couldn't. I got pregnant naturally, but we suffered a miscarriage. And then 3 weeks later, my father-in-law suddenly died from cancer after a 3-week battle. And then 3 months later, my mom died suddenly from cancer after a 3-week battle. And then not even a year after my mom died, my dad died. So people are constantly checking in on me. And usually it's like, I'm okay, I'm surviving. But this past week, my answer has been like, I'm okay, like I'm good. And I haven't been able to say that in a while. And I think it's because I didn't really take time off after my mom died or my dad died or the miscarriage or Dave dying, because I run a business and I am like it's me, myself, and I, and a few contractors. And if I don't work, I don't make money. And I wasn't preparing for all this. Like now I'm in my late 30s, but I was in my mid 30s. I wasn't expecting all this tragedy and to be in a grief vortex. So I actually took a vacation with my husband. I left my laptop at home the second time in 15 years. I didn't bring my laptop on vacation. So I took literally a real vacation. And then I came back, and not even like a week later, I went to Miami for a mastermind and then to Austin for Baby Bathwater. I can tell you that I actually feel good. Like I feel refreshed. I feel rejuvenated. I feel like I'm becoming who I am next in life, and I'm no longer like stuck in like the Velcro of deep grief.
Wow.
Wow. Well, thank you for being willing to share that.
Yeah.
So
how long of a process has this been? Like, what are we talking? Couple years?
Let's see. Shane had a heart attack. We're coming up to, so Shane had a heart attack 3 years ago.
Okay. Pre-pandemic.
Pre-pandemic. He was still recovering when the pandemic started, and he couldn't go back to work because he's high risk. And then, so it's been 2 years since the miscarriage. November 24th is the anniversary of Dave passing. February 23rd will be the anniversary of my mom passing, and February 18th will be the 1-year anniversary of my dad passing. So my mom and dad, both in their 60s, died 360 days apart. And while this is all happening, I'm running a business, and like, I'm not a multimillionaire yet, but I've had some of the biggest financial successes being half in my business while navigating grief. So it's really interesting because my business, Thrivival, I call it Thrivival, from like survival to thriving. I'm in a state of thrivival. And so it's really interesting to have this sort of duality.
Yeah.
So what gets me excited is that I'm not super sad anymore.
Okay.
And I have a lot of business goals and things I've been working on and things that are coming down the pipeline, and things that have happened. And it's just, there's some cool things coming down the pipeline.
Cool.
So Blair, if you're willing to share, which I can tell you are, what we just had a lovely conversation with another Baby Bathwater member about, the kind of like pain is the great awakener, and this idea that business is personal. It's always personal. You can't separate life from business and business from life. It all kind of flows together. Would you be willing to talk a little bit about maybe some of your greatest lessons, the greatest revelations about yourself during a very difficult time? What did it do for you? Who are you today versus who you were?
Yeah, that's a really great question. I never thought I'd be 37, childless, sober, and bird watching, but here we are. Like, very
what
wild.
a picture.
Are you a bird watcher? Are you bird watching?
I mean, like, I'm not like super aggressive into birding, but when I see cool birds, I Google them and learn about them. And like, I like lying outside in nature and like looking at the clouds and the leaves and the birds and like learning. I like to think the birds are cool.
They are.
They are cool. My wife loves birds, and we feed the entire flock that comes through the Chicagoland area. I'm convinced of it.
Hopefully not geese.
I don't
No, not geese.
Good.
I don't feed birds, except for sometimes hummingbirds. Like we recently moved to Kamloops in the last year, but I was living in Pemberton, which is just north of Whistler. And there we had a really cool, we had a bird feeder, hummingbird feeder, and we had a couple hummingbirds hanging out, and I love it. Yes. And I might add one this year. But yeah, that's a great question, Brandon. So where I am now, upon reflection, because you could really only understand the lessons you've learned from a place of a scar, not an open wound. And my husband and I have decided we're not going to have children. And I really think I was put on this earth to do something great. And I started sharing when I learned my father was terminally ill. My father lived with addiction. In 2008, we learned he was terminally ill, and we started sharing our story of his addiction, our relationship, my forgiveness of him. And I think it's a story for another time where you can just do a deep dive creep online on me. But we started sharing our story publicly, like over coffee or on like this, and it was helping people.
Yep.
I would share my story and I'd get a message. Hey, Blair, it was great having coffee with you. I went and got a therapist. I want to fix things with my mom. Hey, Blair, heard you on the radio. And I drove across Canada to fix things with my dad. And I was like, whoa, Dad, we're making a difference. So let's gather stories of resilience and publish a book, and we'll bookend it with your story and my story. And it'll be a legacy piece for when you're gone. And so I started this journey. That's so the end of 2018, I decided to choose sobriety. So I haven't had alcohol in almost 4 years now. And because alcohol led to other bad decisions that I just was going down a similar path to my father, and it was scary. And I'm a lot like my dad. And so I decided I couldn't navigate his end of life with making those same decisions. So I cut out the bridge to that. And I started something called the Global Resilience Project. And so I started gathering stories from around the world and running fundraisers for counseling assistance programs, et cetera. And I've been doing that for since the beginning of 2019. But a huge lesson I learned was about resilience through, baptism by fire and through research. I learned about all these scientific ways that you can actually be more resilient. You can be proactive and do certain things so that you are more resilient when you need to activate your resilience muscle. So you can strengthen your resilience muscle. Or when life gets fucking hard, you have certain tools of things you can do to take, the situation a bit more in your control and move through those challenges. And so where we're at today is I've really learned that I'm on this earth in this body in this lifetime. I know that sounds a little woo, but I'm a woo Jew. So here we are.
Yeah.
Is that I'm here to
with you.
turn I'm here to turn my pain into purpose. I'm here to get on podcasts and stages and coffee dates and be in front of rooms, be in front of kids and students and, senior citizens and everyone in between to help empower them to be more resilient, because we all have this muscle. And a lot of us don't have or know, like, haven't had to like learn to strengthen it. And then guess what? I hate to be the Blair of bad news, but everyone's going to die. Someone you love is going to die. It's going to fucking suck. Your parents, if they're not dead yet, they're going to die. Like, I learned all this really, in my 30s, and I have all these lessons on how I navigated it and how I got through it and how my business was still generating revenue and how I was able to still show up for a life that a life I didn't recognize anymore. And I want to be that person. I think that's why I'm here. That's why I'm here in this lifetime. So then my biggest lesson is that, like, we're all resilient. Like, we're born to be resilient. We're born to get through shit. And like, I'm a social media marketing expert and mentor, and I've created these whole systems, I'm considered a pioneer in the industry. But what I've learned with social media and the Global Resilience Project is that we all have a story.
Mm-hmm.
We all have a story. We all have our why.
Mm-hmm.
And the common thread between both of those is that, are we telling ourselves a story, or are we living our story? Are we making up who we want to be, or are we actually living who we are?
I love that. Or are we following a narrative that has been handed to us, a story that's been handed to us, and are we coming out of it and saying, wait a minute, I want to make my own story?
Well, and like being an entrepreneur, like, I mean, like, even like a high levels basic is like, we're taught to like go to school and university and get a job in 9 to 5. And maybe you become like a lawyer or whatever, and then you just like live your life working all the time, and then you die. Like, what the fuck? Like, what's the point? What a wasted life. And that's a story that a lot of people have. And as they get older, they're like someone who maybe went to school for business, but now they like babysit cats because that brings them joy. And like, so it's interesting.
Blair, you totally have to listen to, I think it'll come out, the episode with Joe will come out, I think, a week before yours. Like, it's amazing. Like, we should have you both on the same show because we're almost having the same conversation. It is so...
Oh no, is it boring? Should we switch gears?
No,
no, not at all.
No, this
not
is absolutely what people need to hear. Like, Brand and I believe everything is perfect. Like, there's is not an accident that you guys are back to back. And like, it's amazing. So you said something. Are we telling our story or are we living it? So what does that look like? Like, what does it look like when somebody's just telling their story versus living their story? Dig into that.
Okay. So maybe that person will just, we'll call her A. Like, this is literally not in a reference to anyone out there listening. It's not you if your name starts with A, but A is living her life. And on Instagram and social media, it looks perfect.
Okay.
The Christmas photos, the matching sweaters with her kids and her partner, like her unboxing of her new shoes, whatever she wants the world to perceive her as.
With a really nice filter.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But in the back end, she's having trouble in her marriage. One of her kids isn't sleeping. Like, they're in like fucking $200,000 of debt. She's just diagnosed with some sort of illness. Like, and she's only showing us what she wants people to think her life is. Or you're living your life where you're like me, and I'm just using me as an example because it's the easiest. Like, I just came back from the doctors because I've been monitoring a big cyst on my ovary, and I had an ultrasound yesterday and I got my results today, and they, that's shrunk, and there's another thing, and I share it. When my mom died, I share it. I don't just share the good stuff. I share the hard stuff. I show up often on social media without makeup and without my hair done, like in my story. Like, I want you to know all the different sides of me, because that's what not only builds a relationship and a bond, but also shows you what I'm capable of. My whole world fucking fell apart. My mom at 62 was told she had cancer and she'd be fine, and died 3 weeks later. Like, my rug was pulled from beneath me. And from before that was the miscarriage and Dave dying and my husband almost dying. So people were already in my journey, and they're like, holy shit. And you're speaking on these stages and doing this cool shit, and you're published a book and you're publishing a second book. Like, I want to be in your world. So I'm living the life I'm showing people. I'm living my life. I'm not curating the moments that you see. And even what you don't see on social media, like I'm not just lying there doom scrolling, like I'm living my life, like putting my phone down and reading my book and not escaping. Well, except for Real Housewives. I really like the Real Housewives. I do.
Right? Who doesn't?
I know. I joke that if I was a housewife, my tagline would be, I don't make the rules, I just break the rules.
You get the whole
But
moniker.
Yeah. So I just think like there's a lot of like, I mean, and I'm just using social media because that's my world, but it's like what my question is to everyone out there, whether you're an entrepreneur or not, and you're listening to this, is like, what is your why? Like, why are you the way you are? Why are you doing what you're doing? Why are you living where you're living? How did you get here? What's your path? What's your story? Did something happen when you were 5 that led you to be doing what you're doing now? Tell us your story. What is your why?
Love it.
Like just don't put on a show.
Yeah. I love that you're mentioning that. You know, when we're filming clients, we start with their big why. We call it the big why video. And what clients appreciate about it, you know, there's a perception about video that you gotta, we've been trained by, you know, talking heads in the news media. We've been trained by actors, you know, and their perfect jaw lines and everything. And there's perception when I get on camera, I have to amplify only the best parts of me. I've got to show my highlight reel. I've got to grin
or act like somebody else.
Yes, or be not me. And for someone who is neck deep in this media and see social trends all the time, it's very refreshing to hear you being the contrarian and saying this is the reality, and not surprising at all how many people resonate with you.
And it's funny that you're saying that. So like like I said before, I'm considered like one of the pioneers of social media marketing, and I don't call myself that. I share it. A client called me that and it kind of stuck. I started a PR company when I was 23 at the beginning of the recession in Vancouver, where I didn't know anyone. I had no money. Like I was like, what am I doing? I was working for Lululemon. I was sick of folding stretchy pants. So I started a company like naturally. And I started a PR company, but social media marketing wasn't a thing. But I'd have meetings with people and they'd be like, oh, do you know how to use social media? And I would just say yes and figured it out.
Yep.
So there was no mentor, there was no YouTube videos, there was no one to learn it from. So I created my own systems, and I have something called the social media empowerment pillars. And they're the 7 pillars you need to build out in your strategy to be seen as a thought leader on social media. And it's funny because my whole undertone is not undertone, but like my whole, I guess, system is all about storytelling and basically effing the algo, like fuck the algorithm. Who cares about a stupid algorithm? Show up and tell your story. And I recently, in a learning, I sort of came up with it, but I had a friend kind of solidify it. So I didn't fully come up with it, but I helped people with their algoritis.
Oh,
ooh, love it.
Yeah.
Talk about that.
Yeah. So, and that all comes back down to storytelling. Stop making content on social media because you think the algorithm might show your post to 10 more people. Instead, get weird, write a poem. Like I just posted a video of my hands covered in glitter, and it's like a video of 2 photos going back and forth in black and white and color. And I made a little like post with it. Like I think social media is a creative platform. It's a place to get creative, share your story, let people into your world. If one person or 100,000 people see a post, cool. Is that one person or 100,000 people, like, are they buying stuff from you? Does numbers on social media really matter if there's no money in the bank account?
Love that.
So how do you help? So this is something Brandon and I come across, is we want to put the owner, the founder on camera. And a lot of times they're reluctant. Like, I don't want it to be personal. I don't want to tell my story. How do you help brands kind of fight through and figure out what to even say and how to personalize like a brand on social media?
Well, I can definitely tell you I don't work with everyone.
Okay.
I mean, I say no to people. You have to be willing to get vulnerable. If you're not willing to get vulnerable, it might not be the right fit working with me on like a very detailed level. You know, you don't have to be like, oh, my dad died when I was 5. It doesn't have to be as deep as you want it, but like even companies like Lululemon, like Chip Wilson started it. I know the story of Lululemon, and it's about Chip Wilson and how he started Lululemon.
Yeah.
And what is the founder's story? You know, maybe it's an employee at the organization. How did you get here? And if I mean, I think my advice to you is figure out what type of people you want to work with. And if they're not willing to share their stories, then they're just another cookie cutter wasting their money with you, which is probably okay for you, but not for them.
Sure. Has this, Blair, has this been an evolution in your approach to social media?
Oh yeah. I mean, I've always shown up like, again, I don't make the rules. I just break the rules. I'll coach you in exactly what to do and I won't do it. I've been on social media for so long. And like for a while I was turning down work, but I've come up with a new system and I have people to help me because I couldn't keep up. But I've always told stories. It's always about the story, whether it's like me out for a walk on a weekend and like seeing funny things at garage sales, to like going in a helicopter ride in Hawaii with my husband after 3 years of no vacation with him because he almost died in COVID and the death parade. And I think my life is one continuous story. And amongst that, there's all these other little stories that are happening. There's my social media story of like my business, like the ways to work with me. There's my global resilience project story, like all the things I'm doing with resilience. And then there's my personal life and then everything in between.
Cool.
Was there something early on for you that solidified or even recent has this always been your approach to social media, or was there something early on, an event, a conversation, maybe a chance you took by posting a video or a post or a poem that kind of anchored that for you? Like, oh, wait a minute, people are responding to this one-off thing of me doing glitter or petting my cat or a garage sale more than this perhaps this structured video that we see billions of online, and maybe a direct response marketing format, and maybe it just took off for you. Was there anything like that early on that's like, oh, this is the vein I need to go down here in social media?
No, I think I just trial and error. And for me, I can't just make posts because I have to. I have to show up and do what I want when I want. And it worked. And people can tell, people can smell bullshit. Like, here's my plant. This is a sponsored post. And this plant is a Christmas cactus. And if people know when it's bullshit, like, seeing a fitness influencer promoting a Dyson vacuum, excuse me. Like,
right. Yeah.
And, so I think because I'm trained in public relations, and that public relations is the planned effort to influence public opinion through responsible action supported by two-way communication, I've always had this system of creating conversations, whether it is me just sharing something or creating something that would engage people. I've always come at it with that viewpoint.
Cool. So social media didn't always exist, but you've been an entrepreneur. So tell us how you accidentally started your first business.
My very first, well, it depends what you consider like a real, okay. Well, when I was 12, or maybe 11, I had my mom sign up for Avon and I went door to door selling makeup so I can afford my own lipstick.
Okay.
Nice. Beautiful.
Yeah. And when I was 18, so I worked for someone, I was an entrepreneur while I was in university and working at Lululemon. I actually also sold roses in the nightclubs. And I worked for someone. And so I only made $1.25 a flower and tips, but I would work for a few hours and make couple $100 because I would hustle.
Okay.
So that wasn't my own business, but like I controlled how much money I made. Did I just say I imported cigar box purses from New York? I also did that when I was 18.
Wait, imported what? Cigars?
Cigar box purses. So
cigar box.
What is that? What is
It's a purse made from a cigar box.
Like the cardboard cigar box.
Yeah. When my mom passed away, I found a couple and I know they're somewhere, but it's really hard to unpack my Winnipeg boxes from one of my mom, but like, I think I have one or two somewhere here. And when I find them, they will make an appearance.
Wow. Never knew they were a thing.
Yeah, me neither. And then here I am. But anyway, so I did that. But when I was 23, I wanted to move up and do PR at Lululemon, but the company went from private to public.
Yeah.
And it was harder to move up. They weren't just promoting people. They were bringing people in with experience. And who the fuck am I? I'm 23. So I started my own company. I started my PR company, but also So I started my own PR company, no idea what I was going to do. Didn't know how to get clients. Like I really had no idea. I knew how to do PR and that was it. But Lululemon gives their staff free yoga.
Okay.
And so for 3.5 years, I had free yoga, and like part of my job was to like take people to yoga and like coffee. That was great.
Yoga and coffee.
I basically
Bob, why don't we
built
do
this
free yoga? Maybe we should do our own yoga with Bob and Brandon show. Should we just?
Nobody would tune in, Brandon. We would actually have a negative listenership.
Oh,
I would tune in.
thank you, Blair.
No, you're
you.
lying.
I don't lie. So I started,
Blair.
so I left Lululemon, started my company, and I was going to yoga, and I was like, holy shit. I did not know how expensive yoga was because I didn't start doing it until after I started working for Lululemon. So I was like, oh my God, I'm from a coupon family. Like I have memories of running down the aisles at the grocery store, collecting all the coupons. My mom loved the Show and Save book. I don't even know if you know what that is, but
yes,
my mom loved coupons. She would rip them out of the paper. We had piles of coupons. So anyways, naturally I was like, oh, there must be a coupon book for me to do free yoga or discounted yoga. And I couldn't find one. I was like, oh, I'll just make my own coupon book. And so I went to all these businesses in Vancouver that like were health and wellness. And I was like, do you guys want to be in my health and wellness coupon book to inspire people to have an active mind, happy heart, loving soul? And I got like travel companies and yoga and art. And anyways, so I printed a coupon book.
It's genius.
And then I was like, then the coupon book evolved to being basically an online community. First, it started off where like I would sell spots, to the business, like an ad online. And then I switched to the group buy model. My mom was my investor. Thank God for the Bank of Sharon. I did not break
Thank you,
even.
Sharon.
The Bank of Sharon was closed. It was closed so shortly after. We spent a lot of her money, but I worked with a developer and created my own software for all this to happen. Like there was no white label shit. Like everything was custom built for me. And so remember, this is 23 for a few years. I was doing this, and because of that, I was out networking my face off. So I would meet you. You'd be like, wow, Blair, let's go for coffee. In my mind, I was trying to get you to be part of my coupon company.
Okay.
Yeah.
You wanted to talk more usually about PR and social media. So I literally was going to like some days, 3 or 4 events, like a breakfast, a lunch, a dinner, a cocktail. Like I was out networking my face off. And then I had this epiphany a few years later where I was like, why the fuck am I doing this? I should have just paid for the yoga class. Like this is so much work. It doesn't really make me any money. Like my money comes from my PR services, especially because not a lot of people did social media. Like people wanted social media, but I was focusing on the wrong activities, but that was actually put me on the map. It was just like, anyways. So I
love it. You wanted discounted yoga, and you probably spent more money and time trying to develop the company than if you just would have paid for the yoga classes.
Oh, 100%. And it was kind of cool though, because like it started off in Vancouver and then it expanded across Canada. It was called Living Free Canada. Active mind, happy heart, loving soul.
You were a national company is what you're saying.
Yeah. I mean, by the end, it's funny because every so often I'd meet someone and they're like, oh, you're Blair from Living Free Canada. But it wasn't like a huge, like think about group. It was like Groupon, but like not many people knew about it because what happened was it started growing and I got so busy, but I wasn't really making lots of money because the group buy model is a whole different thing. Yeah. And I was just like, I'm miserable. Why am I doing this? Like, I didn't wake up one day and be like, I want to own a coupon empire. Yeah. I just wanted free yoga.
I just want to go to yoga. Damn it. That's all I wanted. I wanted to
I want to pay for it.
Yeah. So that's funny. So I started my PR company, but also accidentally started a coupon company. That's what happened.
Well, I mean, it's not unlike an entrepreneur to say, like, how do I get that for free? And then figure out a really complicated solution.
Here's the solution. Like, I love concerts and music festivals. So years ago, like when I was younger, like when I was young, drunk, and fun, I actually started a blog. Like I started a blog, and then I reached out to everywhere I wanted to go in like the area I lived, and I got media passes. So my job was to go party and then write about it. That's the way to do it.
That is resourceful. Like what we're talking about is resourcefulness is all it is. Yes. Like, I am media. Was it like Blair's blog? Like what was that? What was the blog?
I think, okay. So I had blah, blah, Blair. I think it was blah, blah, Blair. And my like Instagram handle, like some of my usernames are Blair from Blairland. So I may have had that, but like, I would go through phases where I was like super into blogging and then I'd fall off the wagon when there was like nothing I wanted to do.
So like you would go, like there's a concert in town. So you'd call the promoter and like, okay, I'm going to go there. You take pictures and write about it on the blog. You report on it.
Yeah, basically, I created my own news source and report on it. And like it worked like later, like different publications where I used to live, like Tourism Whistler, a newspaper that doesn't exist anymore. They started having me go do these things and pay me for it. So that was kind of cool. Because I was like, oh, I'm doing the thing and getting paid. But so that was, I guess, a win.
See, I can see that. So there's a show on HBO with The White Lotus. And written by Mike White and written and directed by Mike White. And both seasons have been in like these exotic locations. And I think that these guys just want to spend like a month in Italy and decide, okay, I'm going to do a whole story based on this location. Like Vince Vaughn did Couples Retreat because he wanted to hang out in Fiji for like 2 months. Like that's smart.
That's what I do. I make decisions like, so it's interesting because like, so one of my goals, and I know you didn't ask me, but I'm telling you, is to empower 88 million people by the time I'm 40. So August 2025, I want to have empowered 88 million people. And I use this as my compass in making decisions if I'm going to do something where I spend the currency of time or the currency of energy or the currency of money. And so like the book, the Global Resilience Project book that I put out in June, I was actually also a co-author of a different book called Women Gone Wild. And that I was on a media tour for, and part of it, I was on a billboard in Times Square for a month.
Ooh.
That was a big like time, energy, money investment. But recently I was invited to be interviewed on a show, and there was a fee, and it was a big fee, but also it would have been in the Bahamas. And I was like, oh, this is cool. And then I would have been able to use like Fox and all the like maybe NBC like logos on my website, which I have logos on my website. Like I am in the media. Like I'm not like, I'm always looking to build my credibility, but for me, it's now about the reach. It's not about the logo associated with my name. And so Times Square, millions of people see that a day. And I was up there for a month, twice a minute, 24 hours a day for like, that was worth the ROI because I empowered people. They see that, they see me, whatnot. Like, and this is just like a high level metric. Like I'm, I don't really know how to fully track that, like ROI, but like, so I said to the producer of the show or the sales guy, I'm like, well, what's the reach? Like, they're like, oh, it's going to be aired on 4 networks, like a small town in Alaska, probably 2 a.m. Like, I was like, so what's the reach? Like, how many people are going to see? He's like, we don't even know. It's not about that. It's about having the logo. I'm like, so you want me to fly? And I was like, but I'm like, oh, I could use the logos and then I'd be in the Bahamas, but no one's going to see it.
Yeah.
And so I said, no. I said no to that. And I asked a couple people, like, should I do it? And everyone's like, yeah, that's amazing. I'm like, I don't want to fly across like the continent. Like I want to Canada to Bahamas, far, like tens of thousands of dollars. And no one's going to see me. No, thanks.
Not worth it.
Like I may as well just make a post on social media.
Sure.
So anyways,
there was a service out back in 20 years ago, Bob, the internet marketing era, we all know, where you could pay to have some interview and it could be syndicated on
it still exists.
It still
exists, but it's what was once looked at as, oh wow, that's a great opportunity to leverage and have the logos. Now it's kind of like smarmy. With people's distrust in a lot of media, it's like, okay.
Well, I think with credibility, like this is what I teach with thought leadership, because thought leadership, a lot of that is credibility. There's lots of elements to it. So yeah, getting that media exposure, whether it's paid for or earned. I mean, it's all earned, whether you earn the money to pay for it or not.
Right.
But but also like, what else are you offering besides you having the Fox logo and like Forbes logo on your website? Do you have a book? Have you created your own system that you teach people things? Maybe you have a podcast. Like I have 2 of my own podcasts. We're on a podcast show right now. Like there are all these things you need to do. You can't just do one thing and be a thought leader. It's about all these building blocks.
Yeah.
I'm interested in the bodacious goal, like 88 million people by 2025.
Yeah.
Where did that come from? How did you come to that number?
Okay. So 8's my lucky number.
Okay.
I'm born the 8th of the 8th. It also like kind of means abundance.
Yeah.
And not this summer, but last summer, I was doing like a manifestation. Like I was just like, what do I want my goals to be? What do I want my life to be like in the next few years? And I was like, okay, by the time I'm 40, I want to empower 8 million people. And like a month later, I booked a spot on a TV show that had a 14 million reach. I was like, oh, I achieved my goal.
Oops.
So I just added another 8 because I like 8. And so, you know, now I've been on a couple TV shows, Billboard in Times Square. I've been on lots of different podcast interview shows. You know, I've been on some interviews that have had 500,000 to 1 million views. So I'm kind of have like this loose kind of barometer, and I'm actually going to build a barometer. I'm going to work at finding a barometer widget for my website. I'm going to actually add it to my website because my job is to help people through their shit.
Yeah.
Let me help you turn your pain. Sorry, let me help you by turning my pain into purpose. Let me be that light at the end of the tunnel, or that headlamp you need to get through the tunnel.
I mean, is that the goal, Blair? Like when, you know, empower means a lot of things to people. What does it mean to you? What do you want these 88 million people to know or do?
That it is okay to not be okay, and that they are not alone, and they're going to get through it. Like, and they're resilient. And I want people to know that, because it's so easy to want to give up. You know, I've never been suicidal. I've had a lot of hard stuff happen, and I'm on an SSRI, you know, like I've cut out alcohol, I meditate, I have therapists, I do traditional healing, non-traditional healing. I have a lot of trauma from my childhood. You know, my father lived with addiction. He left our family. Like, you know, I still had a really good upbringing, but there's trauma. And I'm doing a lot of healing now in my adult life. And where am I going with this? I lost my train of thought.
We're trying to figure out what empower
yes, right.
means to you.
So, yes, we're trying to figure that out. So anyways, I know where I was going with this. So I have had depression. Like I have found diary entries from when I was a kid in the early 90s. Like the teacher thinks I'm depressed, but my mom says I'm fine. Is that me, Blair Kaplan, the girl with depression? We'll never know, because, you know, there was a stigma about mental health. Yeah. And this past June, I was on a media tour. I was in Vegas. I was in LA. I was in New York. I was on a billboard. I was speaking on stages. I was at red carpet events. You know, I went to an event in Blair at a mansion. Like it was like probably one of the highlights of my career, but I couldn't feel happy. Okay. And I remember standing at the billboard and just looking up and like, I'm proud, but I don't feel it. And I just really miss my parents. And I came back from that trip really depleted, and like, I don't know. I wasn't like, oh, I want to die, but I was like, okay, like I could die happy now. Like if I die tomorrow, no big deal. Like I wasn't like, oh, I'm going to die, or, oh, I'm going to take my own life. But like, I was just kind of like, whatever. And it scared a lot of people. It scared my sister. It scared my friends. They're like, this is not good.
Which is why they've been checking in with you.
Yeah. I mean, everyone's been checking in since Heart Attack Land happened, but like people, check in on your friends, whether like you might think they're the happiest person alive and they might be suffering. Check in on everyone. And like, that's why we're friends. That's why we're in community. So anyways, I went on a new SSRI, and like, I'm in a really good place now. Like it feels like the chemicals are balanced. I'm feeling better. Like I'm getting dressed. I'm brushing my hair. I mean, Brandon probably didn't even recognize me because my hair is usually curly. He's probably like, who's that girl with the brushed hair?
Right. Who are you?
Good question. So what does empower mean? And I think that the meaning is different to everyone, and it changes for me, but empowerment to me is resilience, and resilience is the ability to bounce forward from a difficult time.
What's interesting, and I'm hearing, and certainly been through some of my own pain the last 3 years. What I'm hearing is that part of therapy, part of healing for you, and you're encouraging other people to tell their story, to not hide the story. You know, I was going to ask you earlier, what's been some of the most significant things that have helped you through these difficult times, but clearly it's been telling the story, is not containing it. And, you know, so much of our society is like, oh, you know, always smile and don't share the real you. And well, what has that produced in generations of people? Alcoholism, substance abuse, depression, containing that shit. Shame. Right.
Okay. So this is great. I love that you brought this up, because I'm so public about my story, and I've had some family members be like, Blair, not everything needs to be shared. I'm like, and you're part of the problem. Yeah. Like I took my dad to his first AA meeting. It was actually like a Jewish AA meeting. when we learned my dad was going to die, I took my dad in his 60s to his first meeting. I'm like, what, why am I doing this? Where you've had an addiction for 40 years.
Yeah.
How is this happening only now? Anyways, I think empathy is so important, and we need to learn how to embody empathy. And like, it's something that a lot of, like, I had to learn it. I didn't come from an empathetic family, like at all. And empathy is really important, but yeah, sharing your story is important. So, if you have to go to the bathroom and you hold in your pee, like,
Yeah.
Yes.
same thing. Like, what do you want, an emotional UTI? Probably not. I made that up. I don't know the visualization, but
thank you.
You don't have to like get on a podcast and share it, or like submit it to my community and like be published in a book or online. Get a journal, write it out, talk to a friend, talk to your pet, talk to yourself, like process, like you need to process it. I'm not a therapist, so I'm just telling you what worked for me and what I've seen work for other people. And you know what? Therapy, counseling, whatever you want to call it, has helped me tremendously. Not just process thoughts, but give me the tools I need to navigate when something triggers me and I feel myself going to something. So for example, I had some trauma in my life, and my mom had a bit of she had a lot of trauma. So there was a bit of a short fuse. And for me, I can go to 0 to 100 very fast. I'm a loud person. Like, I literally came into the world blaring. Like, my whisper is a yell. I'm loud. Like, when I'm passionate, I'm loud. When I'm upset, I'm loud. I'm loud all the time. I'm loud. And my voice is loud and deep. And so
you're living up to your name.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. I mean, you were named perfectly.
If you would have named me like Whisper, it would have been very different.
Yeah.
So my husband's pretty like calm, cool, collected. And so if I get upset, I can go from 0 to 100. And for me, what I've learned, it's like a trauma response.
Mm-hmm.
And so I have tools on so Shane has tools on how to talk to me in a different way that doesn't trigger me.
Shane, I give you these tools to help me.
These are these tools. Here's some chocolate.
Whether he uses them or not.
Yeah,
but
here's a puppy.
No,
a kitten for you. You like kittens. You like cats.
I like kittens. I just bought a new kitten. I can't wait. Frey. I named the cat after my mom.
Frey. Oh,
great.
Yeah, my mom was on her deathbed, so she went into the hospital a second time, and they're like, "So your body's covered in like tumors. Like, you have 2 weeks left to live." She died 3 days later. So I had this day with her where it was very like, the will is here, the list of all the accounts are here, the diamonds are here. Diamonds, like,
What? But no, we'll scratch that.
she looks at me and she's like, "What are you gonna name your daughter?" I was like, "I'm not having it." And I was like, "Oh, I'm gonna name her Sharon." My mom's name is Sharon.
Yeah.
And so I started thinking about it. And so I was like, you know what? I do want to get a kitten. And I already have 2 cats, but one is a senior cat. And I want the senior cat to be with the kitten, because they can coexist, and like the older cat can teach the younger cat.
Yeah.
And I was like, my mom's Hebrew name is Freda. And so I thought, it'd be cute to name a cat Frey. Like Frey. And I was like, it's funny to honor my mom that way. We're cat people. We grew up with Xena the warrior pussy. And my mom did tell me I was never allowed to name a cat again, but I think she would approve.
That is epic.
That
is the most epic.
Yeah, when my mom was dying, actually, she said, "You have to take Xena." I was like, "Mom, like, I have 2 cats." She's like, "You have to take Xena." So I bring this calico sassy little biatch from Winnipeg, Manitoba to where I used to live in Pemberton. So now I have 2 senior cats and this other cat. And it was just really funny. So Xena actually, she hung out with me probably from February until September. And so it's been a year since she passed on, but she was old. And so I've had 3 cats before, and it's a lot, but I can manage it.
I think you could.
Frey. So little Frey, named after my mom.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
One thing that just kind of struck me about I've been learning and still learning that the thing that you really want to get in life is the thing that you give away. So it seems, Blair, that you are seeking healing from trauma, and what you are doing is you are helping other people heal from trauma, and that's the way you will receive the healing. Like, it's a really backwards lesson, but it's actually the way the universe works.
But it's also the way I feel. Like, the reason I'm doing this is because every time I tell my story, I feel like the wound closes a bit more. I feel like the gold is flowing through the cracks of my heart. That ancient Japanese tradition of, I can't remember what it's called, but when something breaks, they like put it back together with gold in the cracks. Like
Yeah.
I feel like I'm always healing. So when I tell my story, it helps me heal. But then when I get that feedback that my story may have helped someone,
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm doing my job.
That
I
heals
mean,
you.
yeah, but it's the same way with money. Like if people are like, oh, I want to accumulate more wealth. Well, the way to do it is actually quite the opposite of what you would think, is you give wealth away. And then wealth comes to you. Or if you want to be happy, you give away happiness. Like it's counterintuitive, but it's the way we're wired. And when you experience it, like you have, it's like, I found when I share my story, other people are getting healed and I feel like I'm getting healed. That's the way it's supposed to work. But most people don't realize it. It's counterintuitive, but it is the way it works. And so it's just amazing that you've been able to go, oh, it's like a marketing test. I did this and I feel this way. And now you just want to do more of it.
Yeah. I mean, everything I do is a test. It's not like, oh, I spend hours of research on like, does this work? I just like, I think this might work and I try it out. And if it works, I keep doing it. If it doesn't, I switch. But this fully came from a, holy shit, my dad's going to die. I need to tell my story. I'm bursting at the seams, to like, oh my gosh, my story is helping people, and that no one's perfect and that we all have shit to go through.
Yeah. Well,
so true.
You're amazing, Blair. And just like, I can't believe the people we get to meet on the show. Like Brandon and I, it's like I can't believe what's happening. I would love to give you a chance, Blair, because we love to give people a chance to do a little rant.
Right.
And you said you have a rant, and most people are like, oh, I don't know. No, like, so I can't wait to hear what your rant is.
Yeah. This is going to be exciting. No pressure.
Okay. Tell me when.
When?
Who the fuck invented automatic toilets? And who the fuck decides where they go?
Oh my God, can I rant with you? Go. Keep going. Keep going.
No one wants to also have a bidet toilet.
Oh.
Accidental bidet.
Right.
Accidental.
I want to be in control of when I'm done. I want
you.
to tell the toilet when it's time to flush.
Yeah.
And like, listen, I'm not a skinny mini. If I'm sitting on the toilet and there's a sensor, I know I'm still there, but it decides it's time for me to get off. Are you kicking me off the toilet?
Right. Right.
So my issues with automatic toilets, especially ones with a lot of pressure that also act as a bidet, no one wants a bidet toilet. And so I would like to start a petition to remove all automatic toilets from anywhere and everywhere.
I experienced one of these somewhere and I didn't know what to do.
An automatic toilet.
All these, I forget. Bob, it was when we were in Connecticut at that group thing.
Well, that was a toilet that was plugged into the wall. It had buttons and it was an electric toilet.
It had air blowing on places after the bidet thing.
But like,
I admittedly used the bidet thing. I was just curious. I've never.
Yeah. So like, when an automatic flush toilets are fine if you're in control, but if it's one of those ones where it thinks you're done and it flushes and you're sitting on it, that's annoying.
That's
but
annoying.
if it's one of the ones that are aggressive and it automatically flushes and you're still sitting on it, and like girls usually sit for all the things.
Yes.
Well, that's where I get all my reading done. And sometimes I'll call Bob from.
But it'll flush and also spray me. But it's like, if you're going to use a bidet, you don't want a public bidet. And it's, it's not actually a bidet. I wouldn't say like I walk away from that experience feeling clean.
No, it's not. No, you don't feel cleaned.
No.
So anyways, my issue is with automatic toilets. And I wish I was always in control of when I'm done.
Thank you. Blair, my oldest daughter would absolutely hug you. Like when she was little, we would have to go into the stall with her and cover the sensor. And then she would have to be done and exit the stall because she was afraid that toilet was going to swallow her up.
Oh, yeah.
That automatic sensor was a monster.
Yeah. And those commercial toilets, man, you get a leg stuck in there, you're going down because those suction is
They're meant to flush boulders down. Right. I mean, it's
literally.
like like complete rocks.
I still have that fear that I'm going to get swallowed by a toilet.
Yeah. Well, I have to put that in at least the top 3 rants we've ever gotten.
Okay, good.
Agreed.
Always a bridesmaid, never a bride. I'll take top 3.
Top 3.
Well, I think you might have been topped by our friend Ellie, who did a rant on the DMV, which I'm not sure anyone could top because it was just a lovely story. But I love the whole thing. With the automatic toilets, I think we put that in. That's up on the wall. We're hanging.
What a way to put someone in a bad mood.
Right. An accidental bidet. Yeah, and you don't know what's in that water either.
No.
Usually your own stuff.
Right.
Anyways, so
let's follow a toilet story with a promotion.
Yeah.
Okay.
Let's make a shift.
Blair, you've been really generous and vulnerable and transparent. and that's what we love on the show, and our audience absolutely loves it. But we do want to give you a chance to like tell people how awesome you are and what you actually do to help them. So share with us some resources and places people can find you.
Yeah, the best thing to do is you can go to blairkaplan.ca. That's BLAIRKAPLAN.ca. All the things I'm doing are there. Social media, it's Blair Kaplan Venables. Instagram, I'm on Instagram all the time. I'm Blair from Blairland. I've come so far, I can't change the name now, but I'm Blair from Blairland on Instagram. And, you know, if you're curious about how to create your own empowerment plan for social media and publicity, and you want to be a thought leader, I'm your girl. I actually, I don't know how you guys feel about this, but I do have I have a workbook where people can build out their thought leadership plan.
Boom.
Oh, love it. Yeah, feel free to share that. Is that
yeah.
on the site you shared?
Yeah, so it's a roadmap to being more visible. And the other thing is, if you have a story to share on resilience, I invite you to submit it at iamresilient.info. All the stories submitted online get shared online in social media. And I, on my most recent vacation, had a dream where my mom came to me in my dream, and she was alive, and it was just a really beautiful dream. And in that dream, I was getting ready to launch my second Global Resilience Project book. And so soon I'll be opening applications if someone wants to share their story of how they overcame a challenge.
Wow.
Yeah.
That is great. I am resilient.info.
Yes. So that's what the project used to be called. I am resilient, but then I manifested too much.
You over manifested?
I over manifested about how resilient I really could be, because even my husband, who is not into woo, said, you need to change the name of this project or end it, because you keep attracting things into our life that are hard. So I changed it to the Global Resilience Project.
Cool. Share the trauma a little bit.
Yeah.
You want me to share it?
No,
Again?
I mean,
No. I'm just saying you went to a global thing so more people could experience it. It's not all on you.
It wasn't I went from I to we.
Well, just know that the two most powerful words that a human could say is I am.
Yeah.
Because what follows is what gets created. Right?
I could not agree more. And honestly, this was a real big lesson in manifestation.
Yes, it is. I am is the most powerful creative instrument in the universe, and people don't realize it. So when you say I am resilient, you are basically manifesting resilience. Congratulations.
Yes. So the website, iamresilient.info, but it's called the Global Resilience Project.
That's great. Probably worth a whole other discussion at some point.
Definitely.
And I also think that you should, if you don't have it, get the domain woowoojew.com.
Yes.
Yeah, I just like, the one thing is, I don't know, are either of you Jewish?
No.
But I'm woo woo.
I go back and forth because I don't mind calling myself a Jew, but if someone who's not Jewish calls me a Jew, it kind of comes off offensive.
Sure.
So sometimes I say I'm wooish and Jewish. So I'm just trying to, I mean,
it was just really cool, and it rolled off the tongue. It was just,
I know, right? I'm a marketer. Can you tell?
Right. Yeah, it was really cool. So
I know, maybe I should, or maybe if not, and you get it,
I'm gonna buy it and sell it to you. Yeah, that's what I'm gonna do.
Yeah, sell me the website. Actually, for sidebar, I'm a city girl. Like, I've lived in Winnipeg and Vancouver, but then I met my husband on Plenty of Fish online, and I moved. I moved to a small town, a village, 2,500 people.
Wow.
I was one of very few Jewish people, and in Kamloops, where I live, it's about 100,000 people, and I have yet to meet another Jewish person. Except I heard one guy is a farmer way out somewhere. Anyways. So I thought about starting a website called smalltownjew.com, and it'd be like an online community for people like me who want to buy matzah and Hanukkah candles. But I need to stop making all these businesses and focus on the things that make me money and that I'm really passionate about. But I have all these other ideas, but smalltownjew.com, or Jew in a small town.
It is the curse and blessing of being an entrepreneur. Just a constant flow of ideas that are like, ooh, I can do that. Yesterday
I had this brilliant idea, and I was like, oh my God, I should start a CBD company. I've wanted to for a while. And then I talked to my friend who did it, and he basically was like, why are you doing this? You don't need to. I'm like, okay, you're right. Because I came up with the perfect name. I'm like, oh, I have a good name. Should I do it? Should I just make a company because I had a good name? Anyways.
Yes, I get it. I'm curious how we're going to launch the project to end automatic toilets. That's what I'm curious about. what's that
Let's
going to
start a
look like?
change.org petition.
Set your poop free. Something. We'll come up with something. Yeah.
Liberate your bum hole.
Yeah.
Try, but like, I don't know.
I can
take back
flush
control.
myself. Thank you.
Yeah.
Well, I just love how we end the podcast.
That's just
toilet.
Yeah, that's a good note.
Usually it's not literal, but we literally
potty mouth.
We literally ended it in the toilet. So that's fantastic.
I mean, like you guys probably seem like you end it with like a potty mouth.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah,
So
definitely.
Yeah, we are who we are. So
here we are.
Blair, it's been awesome to get to know you. Thank you for sharing an hour with us today.
So fun. Thank you so much for having me.